Welcome to Spoken Soul, home of the essential athlete. I'm Terrance here with Anthony, and today we're just going to talk about some of the rituals that we go through, whether it be a race or an event. So lace up, clip in, let's get into it. So, Ant, you have a race coming up, and it reminded me of all the preparation that goes into actually preparing for a race and an event. But then there are those things that happen the night before, the week before, and the day of, those rituals. And so I wanted to talk about some of those rituals that we actually have when it comes to whether it be a race or an event. And so I want to start with you because there's one particular ritual that you have after a race that I want to touch on, and I want to talk about the evolution, or not necessarily the evolution, where it came from and why you actually do what it is that you do. And of course, I'm talking about kissing the bricks.
Kissing the bricks. That is that I think came from I believe it was my first marathon. After that, it's kind of like a celebration and an honoring of all the work that you did. I think, we all sit and think about, and I was talking to my son about this the other day. I think in life and in sport, we spend a lot of time thinking about when you get to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever thinks about the work that's put in between, from when you start to you actually get to the finish line. So kissing the bricks is kind of like honoring what you did, celebrating what you did, and saying, okay, because when you show up that day, whether it be a 5K, 10K, the triathlon, whatever it is, everybody's celebrating just the finish, but nobody thinks about like all the work you did that no one ever saw. And it's kind of thanking yourself and reminding yourself that, number one, you did it.
Yeah.
And number two, you're thanking, whoever that higher being is by kissing the bricks, that you're saying thank you that I can still do that.
Just turn it up. Yeah. There you go.
But just saying thank you that I can do that. Like that's very important, because I think I know we've been speaking about this during the episodes about, I know I say aging, you say
Maturing, man.
maturing.
I'm vintage.
But as you mature and you get an understanding that there's a lot of people out there who don't have the opportunity to do what you're doing, and that you still can do that, as you progress in life, like that's a gift. So that's where the concept of kissing the bricks came from, is like just honoring that you can still do that, and that, that you actually finish something that you wanted to do. Because that's, a lot of people start, but some people don't finish.
Yeah. So I'm gonna stick with race day. I don't have any post race rituals, but I do have rituals that I do every day before. Not every day. Well, I do have rituals that I do before every race.
Yep.
The first one is before every race. I always show up early, but I always get a mile run in for warm up before the race. And before even getting to the race, again, because I'm an early person, I make sure I have my waffle with my peanut butter on it. A waffle with peanut butter on it symbolizes race day for me. So I start with that waffle and that peanut butter.
Yeah.
And then when I get there, I gotta get that mile in. My body, I mean, a lot of people warm up, and that's the main reason is the warm up.
Yeah.
But getting that mile in allows me to get everything out, whether it's if I have a particular goal that I'm concerned with, and that's typically not the case. I mean, when it comes to racing, and at the point where, and I learned this early on, it's always about enjoying the actual experience.
Yeah.
But the way that I'm actually able to enjoy it is by running that mile, getting whatever I need to get out, any issues, concerns, just getting my body loose and warm and ready for the race. So that's one of the ones that I do before the race. During the race, and you may be familiar with this, but Scott is, during the race, it's all about fishing. I've always found that when the gun goes off, people just jet. And some of those people jet because it's part of their plan. They have that pace. They have a strategy that they're using to finish where they want to finish. Some people get caught up in the actual excitement, and they get caught up in the rush. So I don't get caught up in the rush. I just sit back and I fish. And what I mean by that is I let the race come to me, and then I just take one person at a time, and I focus on their back, and I slowly reel them in until I get to the next person, the next person, and the next person. And it might not, that might be more of a strategy as opposed to a ritual, but to me, that's part of my race day ritual when it comes to once the actual race starts.
All right, so you're looking for pre-post, let's say.
Let's do it from this perspective. Let's race day, and then we go backwards.
Okay. So race day for me is somebody. So what you do is, so I know it's race day.
Jackson, why are you ignoring me? He ignoring you, Jax?
I know it's race day when, I get up for the race, and if I rarely ever eat it, but I know it's race day when I get up and I have a piece of toast with peanut butter. That means, like, that's only reserved
for race day.
Only. Like I never eat it any other time. But that's the one thing that I know is, if I eat that peanut butter with toast, I know that it's, I know it's never gonna kill my stomach. I know it's never gonna, do anything. It's not gonna upset my body. So I know at least if I've done that, I prepared and I have that pre-race fuel that I need to at least get me, through the first, half hour, 45 minutes of the run. So that's my and then from there, I know it's race day normally. I normally always wear calf sleeves when it's race day. So if I put those on, it's either I'm running a very long run or it's race day. And I think to me, it's more of it's probably more of a psychological thing than anything else. If it's a shorter run, but if it's a longer run, it's really, like, I find like a lot of comfort, and like they really do help for long runs. So
you know what's strange? I've never worn the calf sleeves. Never worn them.
Listen, they've gotten me through.
I don't even own a pair.
Okay, yeah, they've gotten me through 4. I have to gift you some. They've gotten me through tough long runs for leading up to marathon training. They really, especially like once you get in and like the calves get fatigued, I found really they work. They work. So that would be my ritual, and I think the day of ritual too is see, and you're actually getting me in the mind of things because I haven't raced in so long. I have a race coming up this Saturday, so I have to actually go and get ready. And then for me is I don't know if you ever seen me at a race, but sometimes like I'll go into a corner, and then there's like a 4 or 5 song slot that I'll listen to, and like one of them is I listen to the Whitney Houston Star Spangled
Whitney
Banner.
Houston. Oh, I see.
The Star Spangled Banner with her, and then there's this motivational one where he talks about this is your time, and he it's almost like he's psychologically amping you up. So I listen to those are 2 of the 4 songs that I'll listen to, and I'll be like rocking, but in my mind I'm playing the race through my mind, like how I want to go through it. Mostly every race that I race, like that's my ritual. If I can play it in my mind, then I know I can finish it. So I'll start thinking about, okay, not in depth, but okay, it's a half marathon. So I'll start thinking about, what I want the first 5K to look like, what I want to, the second 5K and so forth. And, and where I want to get to the point where, I turn it up. Cause I don't, and I should do that. I should make a better effort at running beforehand. I do a good job cooling down, but I don't do a good job warming up. So normally the first 2 miles for me is kind of like a warm up, and I'm not going to have that option at the 5K. So I got to figure that piece out. But normally trying to walk my way through it mentally, where I want to go with it. So that's kind of like my pre and day of ritual.
You know what's crazy? It doesn't make a difference what the actual distance is for the race. I still do the mile. Okay. Even if it's a 5K, I still do the mile. Only because, again, that's what I'm used to. I mean, even you want to know the crazy part about that. I say race day, before every run, I do the mile. I gotta do that mile warm up.
Yep. And I have to say, when we talk about teammates too, that's one of the things, like, we pick up good habits from each other. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but I like when I do get there on time, occasionally I may not necessarily run, but I'll walk to kind of like get myself loose, or I'll do stretching. But that, again, those are good habits that you pick up from teammates that you that you implement, and I think that's really good, because, again, a lot of times you don't really get ready for it, because you get, and I see it actually, because I was, not that I'll struggle, but I'm more of a person who like I warm up into it and I let it heat up, and then by the time it's toward the end, I'm like, all right, it's championship miles time.
Yeah, championship miles. So do you have a particular meal that you have the night before the race?
Hell yeah. And it's funny because I haven't done this in ages, and I actually haven't eaten that meal. But my go-to meal the night before is chicken lo mein.
Chicken lo mein,
chicken
really?
Lo mein. Like that's my that's my and what I'll normally do is the night before, or depending upon how long the race is. So if the race happens to be, and I picked that up from you, where I try to carb load for longer races from a period of time. So for me, I'll even go 2 or 3 days out, and that'll be my meal for those 3 days to kind of get those carbs stored in. But chicken lo mein and water is my thing.
Yeah. If I'm doing a half marathon, I start carb loading probably 4 or 5 days before. But the night of, it's always a light meal, but it's always pasta and chicken.
Okay.
I always have pasta and chicken. Pasta and chicken the night before, and then that peanut butter and that waffle, that one peanut butter and that waffle will get me through. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, in the night before, other than, that meal, for me, it's really always about trying to make sure I get enough sleep, which doesn't always happen for me on a regular basis. Yeah. But the night before a race, I'm trying to get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I struggle with that too. I mean, I think the sleep part is important because, and I don't care how many races you've run, always in the back of your mind, you still have anxiety, you still have fears. That's the excitement in the allure of running is to have that. So you have that. So I think for me, I try to go to sleep extra early than I normally would, just because I know I'm gonna be playing the race in my mind and thinking about the strategy and trying to really get mentally set, because it's different zone. It's not, and I don't care what anyone says, no matter how many times you've done it, when you practice versus when you run is a totally different thing, because you're pulling from so many different areas than you normally would, that you're not when you would be training, know. And plus you have, again, like you said about the practice piece, where if we would be on a train, it's no different than if we're running on the road. We know we're playing, but we know it's different when I'm out on the road and there's 200 to 250 more people, or if I happen to be doing a triathlon and I'm swimming and I swim in the pool by myself and I'm swimming with 400 to 500 different people that are swimming all over you. So to have to get your mindset ready for that, I think is important.
Yeah, and you say this all the time. On race day, you don't do nothing different
Nothing
different than from what you
Nothing.
did in training. And I remember, this is a funny story. I remember Sandy's first half marathon. And for one reason or another, she decided that while she was running that half, that she was going to take a goo. And you know, I don't do goos.
Yep.
Never did.
I know you don't.
And when the race was over, that goo started talking to her. Yep. And she was, I'm like, oh, listen, you know the rule. Yep. You don't do nothing different on race day. You don't do nothing different on race day. So from a ritual perspective, that's the thing. I mean, whatever you used and whatever you did during your training,
see
you keep it the same.
Listen, you got me. And again, I can't wait to come back and talk about my comeback and my post race, because all these things I've had to think about that I haven't had to think about in a long time, because leading up to, and again, and I don't want to downplay it for anyone. I don't want to sound like a running snob, because it is a 5K, you know, and we've done, it is a 5K, so it is a shorter race. So I'm not going to disrespect it, but it still is a race. So you still got to take it serious. So even with that, and you said it earlier, discipline's everything. And, and discipline and also just having consistency. So, you know, my race is on, it's on Saturday. Yesterday, it's funny we're having this conversation, because I was thinking about it. I had to start thinking, okay, so what you wearing?
Yeah.
You know, because again, you know, I haven't raced. I haven't had any of that. And, you know, normally, whether it be your shoes, whether it be your socks, whatever that may be, you got to stay consistent. So it's funny, because I was thinking about that yesterday, and I had to go back in my bag. I couldn't find a racing singlet, but you know, we always got swag. So I found an old new We Run This Town. Remember the classic joints that we had? I had lost my other one, but I found one of the new ones. But I got to run in that this week, because I got to know what it feels like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So getting into that, you know, all right, I don't want to just go on the same day. And although it's only a short race, anything could happen. You know, you can get chafed, whatever else, and all that stuff mentally can throw you off. So I think it's important. And like you said, you know, don't change anything up. I mean, the same thing I do. I'm having a little vest on that caught cracks on with my little water bottle, even though it's a 5K. You know, actually, I probably won't. You know, but I'm gonna go out there and do the same thing that I do all the time that we run.
And I can't forget, I forgot about this. And we all do this the night before. You got to lay out the fit.
Stanley, baby. Yes.
You got to lay out the fit. I forgot about that. You lay out the fit.
We normally lay out the fit. You know, if we got our bib, we make sure the bib's on. You know, you make sure you make sure your headphones are charged.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if, you know, back in the day when we were running, you know, if you had like your little Bonnie bands for the sweat, you had your whole outfit laid out. So you knew that you didn't have to worry about that in the morning. And you know that once you get up, all that stuff's laid out. All you got to do is just go do what you put that stuff on, and then you go through your ritual, you know, whatever that may be first. You know, some it may be, you know, I may eat my peanut butter toast, then I may go get dressed, you know, or whatever that may be. You know, and then to proceed from there. And I think that's important, because I think that structure keeps you safe.
You know, and this is going to sound funny. One other thing that I forgot about on that I do race day, and it's only because, man, I don't want to deal with them porta-johns.
Oh,
race day, I got to make sure I go before I leave the house.
You ain't
got to make sure I go before I leave the house.
You ain't never lied about that, and I'm glad you talked about that. Although it may be too much information, that is one of the things I would tell you. For me, I get up before I even have the toast and coffee. I'll have some coffee, because you know coffee is a diuretic. So I'll have my sip of coffee. I'll do what I got to do. Go back. Twice. I make sure I am empty.
It is a double tap.
Yes, it's a double tap. And as a matter of fact, I try to do that not only on race day, but I especially do that on our long rides, because there's nothing worse than whatever activity you're doing and you're bloated and you got to take a shit. Like that. Oh, that's the worst. That's the worst, bro.
So we covered race day rituals from a run perspective. When you're doing events, or, you know, these long rides, are there any rituals in particular that you do before each ride or during the ride? Like, I'm gonna give you an example. So during each ride, as we start, you may notice this, but I always pedal with one foot.
Yeah.
I keep one foot out and I always pedal with one foot. Part of that is because, some of the training that I do, I'm isolating. But at the same time, I know that when we're coming to these stoplights and we're on the road, clipping in, trying to clip in as you move always takes a little bit longer. So I try to get my legs in prepared to actually do that, one leg rotation.
Yeah, my ride day, I probably I always for the ride, my rituals, I just think about, what we talked about in the prior one, to make sure I have everything. But I also, for me, it's more about how I'm gonna feel on the road. So, for me, I always check my tires the night before and the day of. Like that's something I always do because, again, I've had issues where I had flats. So, so that's a big thing for me. I always make sure that like I always prepare my bottles the night before. So like I'll and my tailwind and I put that in the refrigerator. So like that's my thing. So when, I come down and I have, and again, ride rituals. So my ride day ritual is, or the night before, I'll make all my bottles. I'll put them in the refrigerator. Then the day of the ride, when we ride, I'll go down. I'll have, I don't eat a lot, so I'll have like a granola bar, like 2 hours. So I'll get up 2 hours before I have that granola bar. I'll make sure that I take the bottles. I'll put the bottles right in the compartment, so I know that I have that. I do a weather check. I always do a weather check to make sure, kind of.
That's a good one because I don't do a weather check.
I do a weather check all the time. So, and if the weather's kind of, if it's very varied from what I thought it was going to be, then I'll make sure that I grab, even though I know I have something in the bag, I'll grab, if it's going to be colder, I'll make sure I grab something just in case, if it's going to be windy. I don't normally keep like one of the wind long sleeves. So if that's not in the bag, I'll grab that. And then if it happens to gonna be cold, I rarely ever wear socks, but I know I got the socks in there. So I'll do that. And then again, I'll double check the computer and the light to make sure that they're that I have enough battery life. But I normally charge them the night before.
Yeah.
But every now and then, like for example, I rode yesterday. So if today's actually I'm sorry, I rode Thursday. So if today happens to be really crazy, I may forget to charge them today. So, I'll check then during that 2 hour time frame because you still can get a pretty good charge. Just to make sure that everything's in order. And then I'll grab some goo and just make sure I'm straight with that. Everything else will be in the bag. Be ready.
Yeah, typically before any ritual or preparation I have before a ride is, for the most part, happens outside of preparing tailwind. Happens the morning of. The tailwind I do the night before. Yeah. I do the night before, and I put those in the refrigerator. I keep water bottles in the bag. I mean, they're empty, but the tailwind I'll prepare the night before. Mm-hmm. Everything else is the morning of, and I say the morning of with the exception of after every ride, I make it a point to plug all my devices in. And the challenge is they stay plugged in all that time. So the lights, because I mean we've been on some rides, and I tell you, when my lights, although the last one it didn't, the lights tend to die. They tend to die out before the end of the ride. Mm-hmm. The little ones, the bigger one lasted for most of the ride last time, but I do a good job plugging that stuff in. The morning of, I check 2 devices. I check the Garmin, because if there's an actual update there, it'll mess up the map and then won't know where I'm going. Yeah. And I check the watch, because the watch is where I actually play the actual music from.
Yeah, see, we didn't even touch on that with the music is everything.
Oh, yeah.
And especially, and it's funny, that is one of the rituals too. I always make sure my headphones are charged. And I don't really play the music all throughout, because actually for most of our rides, we chat or do whatever else. But
it's one of those just in case moments.
No, actually, you know what? And again, we talk about rituals. One of my new rituals is, when people start to pull, and they start to really they pick it up. I just hit that, just tap that button right there. And then, what I'm saying? It's
you
like
push the button,
and then push the button. And I got the music for a little bit extra, motivation, that's kind of normally when I use. But normally, we're all talking, laughing, joking, whatever else, with that. So that, those rituals are important though, because one thing that you don't get right can ruin the whole experience. And I think that's really important about the rituals. And even with your race too, like it can throw your psyche off. I remember I think it might have been the Providence Marathon. I think it might have been the third one I did. I remember at one point running that race, I had everything prepared, but I think and I'm gonna bring it way back to you. Back then, part of the pre-race ritual was, and actually we used it a lot. We used the icy hot and what the hell's her name? Sue Nugent turned us on to the white monkey. Remember the white monkey? Remember the white monkey? Yeah, the white monkey. Listen, the white monkey saved lives, baby. That saved lives.
Yo, the white monkey reminds me of that episode of Seinfeld where Kramer used the tiger bomb.
Listen,
the white monkey.
I'll tell you something. That white monkey saved a lot of long distance runs. But I remember all throughout training I had been using that. And I only used it on my calves. So I would use it on the calves, then I would put the calf sleeves on, and it would help warm it up, and it would stay warm. So like I wouldn't cramp throughout the run. And at one particular time, I think on that one, I ended up not doing it, and I paid the price. But the funny part about it is how sometimes not following your rituals can help you, because that was the best marathon I ended up running. I ended up running that, like, I had a sub 4. I was trying to beat Oprah at 4:30. So
he said I was trying to beat Oprah.
I got Oprah. I think I got like 4:29:42 or something. But rituals help. And again, I
goals.
Think, yes, that was my goal. But I think again the rituals I think are important, not just in sport but in life too. And I think what the podcast is kind of meshing together how things in sport translate over into life. Like if you have rituals with what you do and you stay consistent, that's how you reach those goals, and that's how you stay safe too, especially in sport. For me, I think not just the pre-race, but just the rituals in general. Those are the things that can prevent you from getting injured. You know what I mean? If you do those things.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue, right? What the rituals do is what you just said. From a consistency perspective, it provides you with that consistency. From a preparation perspective, it makes you prepare. Right? And so that preparation and that consistency only betters your readiness for what it is that you actually need to do. And the funny thing is, it's funny how sometimes some people's rituals rub off on you. And I say that because I remember the first time I saw you pull one of them Uncrustables. I saw you pull one of them Uncrustables out of your pocket. I'm like, man, what are you doing with these Uncrustables? And now, for every ride, I end up packing Uncrustables. Now, I have them after the ride, but it's funny how that works out. But yeah, from a ritual perspective, again, it goes to the mental side of being prepared.
Yes.
It goes to the consistency, the dedication you have to sticking to those actual rituals. Yes. And like you said, those rituals end up leaking over into different aspects of your everyday life. And I think that makes it so much easier from a stress perspective when it comes to whether it's a race, whether it's a run, whether it's an actual ride. And I think that's a great way to sum up this episode. So with that being said, let us know what your race day rituals or ride day rituals are down in the comments. Until next time, I'm going to get this right. Keep those wheels turning and those feet moving, and we'll see you on the road.
Yep. And like Scott says, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
There it is.